All of this would look like it would be good for the pickings, right? You just got to get down through the overburden. But yeah, you can see looks like more tailings. I know people have worked these with excavators before. But yeah, I just follow it all the way along, right? Until it stops, until your lead stops. Okay guys, here we are, Highway 33, southbound from Kelowna to Rock Creek. It's a great little highway. This highway follows the Kettle Valley, so we just passed McCulla, which is kind of the road that takes you over to the Myra Canyon Trestles. That's a great little place to go. It's free, you can take a look at the trestles. Built a bunch of trestles through Myra Canyon, the old bridge work. I love bridges. I've always loved bridges. Bridges are works of art as much as they are, you know, functional pieces of infrastructure. Same with dams too, frankly. Back in the old day, dams were like that. They're beautiful. All of those Myra Canyon bridges are quite a work of art, and it's amazing what those old timers did with the resources they had. We're gonna pass Carmi, which is one of the stops. It's an old gold mining town. And we're gonna pass Beaverdale on after that, which is a silver mining town. The old school bridge building construction and just railway construction in general, one of the critical pieces to the railway building puzzle, you know, there's like the railway building, there's getting the trains together, there's the design of the railway itself, right? Like the grade, the slopes and everything. But almost more importantly than anything, and this kind of stands for most things in construction, any of you guys that worked in construction before, you can speak to it, is surveying. Surveying is all about, are we in the right spot? Are the things we're building to the right height? As in like elevations for pile caps, like when you're building trestles in Myra Canyon, all the bents of piles, which is basically a row of piles, all of those piles have to be the same height, and the cap's got to meet a certain elevation so that the deck can go on top of it. So this is all comes into surveying, and surveyors are the ones that tell you like, this is what height you're at, or like this is what height you need to cut at, and then you basically mark it, and then you can do all your cutting and everything after. But the surveyor is the one that tells you where you're going. Just like with your point of beginning, the biggest thing in surveying is that surveying is completely based off relativity, in the sense that neither point of beginning is wrong. It's just a matter, in the context of what you're building, of which point of beginning are you using. So like I have 2 point of beginnings, 2 arbitrary points in, let's say, UTM coordinates, and or, you know, latitude longitude coordinates, and one is X number, one's the other number. Whichever one of those points beginning I choose has now become the point from which everything else that comes after it must also reference. So it's not that the other point's wrong, but if the other point was used in conjunction with the initial datum point that was chosen, it would be wrong because they're not the same. So when you have different trades and different people building the same project, you all need to be on the same page with what measurements you're using, and not only just what measurements are you using, but what points are you measuring from, because that will tell you, especially when it comes to like elevations and stuff. Like if you're picking a benchmark that's relative to sea level or something, and you want to get X amount of elevation by doing, you know, setting up your control points and doing your bunch of math to figure out like where you're sitting, you can get a variance by quite a bit sometimes, depending on what monument it is, which one you used, who surveyed it. And sometimes other surveyors they'll do their own thing, and then they'll be kind of off on their own while everybody else is doing the same thing, and then it leads to confusion. But when you're surveying a railway, you got to be really precise, because you've got tunnels going through mountains, and depending on how long the tunnel is, they would start on either side of the tunnel and meet in the middle. You know, that's where surveying would come in handy, surveying the track. So pipelines, railways, roads have this thing called road chainage, which basically marks points along a center line. So you've got like 0 plus 0, which would basically indicate 1 kilometer. It's basically 1,000 meters plus X amount. So if my road chainage going north is N 0 plus 20, that basically means that I'm 20 meters north on the center line from my point of beginning, which would be 0, 0. So if you picked 2 different spots for your 0, 0 mark on your road chainage in the north, it would be different. But when you're building a railway, road chainage is critical, because it's how you survey and map distance over long distances. blocks, because there's different types of survey. You're building a building kind of surveying. There's long haul, like long distance surveying, where you've got a pipeline that stretches for 400 kilometers. And so you need to basically mark out certain points on the right of way where you are. So like if I had 30 plus 15.65, that would mean I'm 30 kilometers, 15 meters, 15.65 meters away. And back in the day, before standard lengths of chain were now in like, tens, like 10 feet, all of that stuff. But before the kind of the new standard of tapes and chains came out, it was Gunther chain, and it was 66 feet per length of chain. And so the surveyors would literally hike around where we are now, like through the mountains along the rail grade, setting up chain. And they would take these 60-foot lengths of chain and mark them up. And they had different types of chain to show you different numbers. So like 2 pieces of chain plus another piece of chain plus another piece of chain would be like 275 feet. And you would know based off what type of chain link you were looking at would tell you how far from whatever point of beginning you started at you were. So there's many different tools based in surveying, like the builder's level, the transit, the theodolite. Nowadays, most places use a theodolite with a GPS, or basically a total station pretty much, which has the GPS and the theodolite. And so it can like sense distances, and it's basically a computer that does all of the old school things that these old surveyors used to do. But they were originally referred to as engineers, field engineers. That was their initial term, because surveying and engineering are intimately linked, and without good surveying, everything completely falls off the rails. We'll talk about Andrew McCulla. He was an accountant. Talked about him before, but I'll talk about him again just because he's an incredible human being. He was actually an accountant, but he came up in a time where you didn't need to be an engineer to go to engineering school. And I know that sounds weird for a lot of people that are, especially people that are either are engineers or have, in the process of getting an engineering degree, because becoming an engineer nowadays is not like it used to be. Back in the day, if you were competent and you could do math and you basically had half an understanding of what you were doing, you were basically an engineer. McCulla, he was an accountant, but he ended up being the primary engineer on the Kettle Valkey Railway just because he was highly intelligent. He was educated, formally as an accountant. He understood numbers and design, and he basically just became an engineer. But he had no official engineering degree. And this was a common thing for a lot of these guys, especially in the smaller communities. If they were just capable and smart and they understood what was going on, they would be the engineer, right? It wasn't like you had to go to school and, get a ticket and get a PNG and go through certification exams and all the stuff you have to do now. It wasn't like that back in the day. It was just like, hey, you're competent at this. You would know the math and you understand the concepts of what we're doing. He understood surveying quite a bit. We'll follow the Kettle Valley down to Midway, or that would be the end of the Kettle Valley West. Okay, just passing through Carmi, small little gold mining town. There's about a 67 meter shaft here. They started around late 1920s, 1927-ish. It's a small little town now. There's not really much here, just a bunch of people's little houses, but this is a little gold mining area. Something to note for sure. It's where pretty much already through Carmi now. Yeah, Carmi's small. There's a little Kettle Valley sign. I stopped there before and did a whole thing on that, so make sure you check that old video out about Carmi and the Kettle Valkey Railway and the history of Carmi itself more. Beaverdale is a little bigger. That's where the silver mine is. So this area is weird for mineralization. There's not as much mineralization here as other parts of the province. Like the boundary country is interesting by itself just because the deposits tend to be really weird here. They don't really go to depth, but this is right on the edge of the boundary. The Okanagan doesn't have much in the way of ore at all. Like there's that mine near Penticton, Okanagan Lake, Camp McKinney. But other than that, they're all pretty spotty. Camp McKinney was a good mine, but that's kind of more over towards the boundary country again as well. The Granby region, like the park that is when you go to the Christian Valley, take the road up the Christian Valley, kind of takes you to the Granby Provincial Park, that area. Those mountains kind of towards the north, especially like Lower Arrow Lakes part over there, there's not much over there. It's weird. And there's a good reason for that. It has to do with the geologic terrains and the accretionary belt of Western North America, which is one of the unique parts of the world that way. 250 million years at least, there's been the Pacific plate in the ocean has a big hot spot out in the middle, and that hotspot wells up and it pushes plates to the west against the Philippines, Japan, parts of China, New Zealand, creates that volcanic arc, the Ring of Fire. And then on the eastern side of the Pacific Ocean, Alaska, British Columbia, Yukon, all the way down to basically Northern California near Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta is kind of where it kind of ends. That's the Cascade Volcanic Arc, and there's a fault up near the Alaska portion of it. That's all due to the Pacific Plate moving against the North American Plate from that magmatic hotspot up in the ocean there. And so as these plates push against North America, they have these things called island arcs, which are basically like Hawaii, the Aleutian Islands, and Alaska. Those are all volcanoes, and they pop up like there's a hotspot under the crust. And as the crust moves, the hotspot pushes and wells up through the crust, creating these volcanoes. But because the crust is moving, it forms like a chain of islands, like the Aleutian Islands or like Hawaii. And that hot spotting with the combination of the plate moving is what causes these island arcs to form. We're coming into Beaverdale. Big silver mining town, Beaverdale. Was quite prolific. It's right over there, right? Kind of if you're going driving south, left side of the highway. We tried driving up there last time, but it was private property, no trespassing. Not much mining going on. I'm sure if the price of silver ever got better, they might return, because some of those mines, it's not that they don't have material. It's that the combination of extracting that material and getting it to market versus the value of that material based off what the market price was at that time didn't add up to a solid business case. Just coming through Westbridge. So we're coming to the end of Highway 33 pretty soon here. It's a great little road. It's just a fast way to get from Kelowna down to Rock Creek without having to go through Penticton, Soyuz, up Anarchist. If you want to miss Anarchist Mountain, like, because in the wintertime sometimes Anarchist Mountain can be hard to drive. Depending on where you are, obviously. Like, obviously if you're in Soyuz, it probably doesn't make any much sense. But this is an easier drive for sure. Alrighty guys, so it's Rock Creek. Go take a look. This active gold mining area, claimed up, but still nice to like just come here and check it out because it's so historic. Under the bridge there, everywhere. Yeah, this area has been worked since 1859. The original Dewdney Trail came out here. It was initially York Creek, and then there was a huge border dispute with the Americans because the Americans wanted to try and take over. So Governor Douglas had to come overland from Victoria to Rock Creek to settle the dispute, and he was able to convince the Americans to go otherwise and not take over Canada, which is funny that it's a common narrative, it seems to be these days. This was the main site of the gold mining in this region, Rock Creek. They had a big one here. These banks too, you can see, looks like some tailings have been moved around here for sure. Yeah, this all looks like tailings to me, as if it's been worked. They would have worked these banks quite a bit. It's like they would have worked here, all down through the river. You can see kind of the boulders on the other side. This bar here would be a good one to explore. Right there, all along here. Some really nice territory here actually for mining, but all in here, great spots to come pan. The guys back in the day cleaned up nice here. They also had some wing damming going on here, and then they were further up on the slopes there. They were hydraulicking, but it definitely looks like there's been a lot of activity here. You know, like eating that whole part out, just getting an excavator bucket and just digging into that hole along the river bed there. You can't obviously do that now because there's a bunch of trailers and gas station over there, but back in the day I would have widened this right up, come in here, dig all this out, all that on that side there, all those rocks, those boulders. Like I said, these bars, when I say bar, this gravel bar, this is a great area to go look at and pan. And then under the bridge there, this right here too, you can kind of see it looks like this has all been worked. Not even going that far. I went down there before and you could see where they were hydraulicking all those old sections. Even in this part here where this road was would be good to dig into. And then let's check here. All of this would look like it would be good for the pickings, right? You just got to get down through the overburden. But yeah, you can see looks like more tailings. I know people have worked these with excavators before. But yeah, I just follow it all the way along, right? Until it stops, until your lead stops. This is Rock Creek, great place to stop for a coffee or sandwich or breakfast burrito, depending on what time of day it is. Got little gold panning kits in the cafe there, so because you can find gold along the Kettle in various different spots, but this one's kind of the big one, the big place you're gonna find anything. Continuing on the road again, Rock Creek. So anyways guys, if you like this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe, hit that bell icon to get notified, and Sasquatch Prospector out.